The old house hunched on the hill like a broken-backed beast, its windows like vacant eyes staring out at the encroaching forest. Locals called it Widow's Peak, a name whispered with a shudder, not just for the tragic history, a family wiped out decades ago, but for the unsettling things that seemed to happen there. My grandfather, a man who scoffed at superstition, had bought it for a pittance, drawn by the sprawling land and the promise of a quiet retirement. He'd been gone 6 months when I received the call, not from him, but from the sheriff. A heart attack, they said, clean and quick. But the sheriff's voice held a tremor, a prickle of unease that mirrored my own growing dread. The drive up the winding, overgrown lane was agonizing, not from him, but from the sheriff. A heart attack, they said, clean and quick. But the sheriff's voice held a tremor, a prickle of unease that mirrored my own growing dread. The drive up the winding, overgrown lane was agonizing. The house seemed to loom larger with each turn, its silence pressing down like a physical weight. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and decay, but also something else, something acrid, metallic, faintly sweet. Like old blood. Grandpa's study was untouched, his books still neatly shelved, his pipe resting on a worn leather armchair. But the photographs were gone, all of them. Every single picture, family and otherwise, vanished without a trace. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house groaned and creaked around me, the sounds amplified by the oppressive silence. Then, I heard it, a faint scratching, rhythmic and insistent, coming from within the walls. It sounded like nails on wood, but deeper, somehow more visceral, as if something was trying to claw its way out. The scratching grew louder, closer, terror choked me. I fumbled for my phone, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, illuminating swirling dust motes dancing in the moonlight filtering through a cracked window pane. Then I saw them. Scratches, not on the walls, but on the floorboards. Long, deep scratches, like something huge and clawed had dragged itself across the room. They ended abruptly near the fireplace, leading to a dark, gaping maw behind a loose stone. Curiosity wired with terror, but the growing intensity of the scratching won. I pulled the stone free, revealing a narrow, dank passage descending into darkness. The metallic sweetness in the air grew stronger, almost overpowering. From the depths, a voice whispered, raspy and ancient, "Join us." I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. The beam bounced wildly across the walls, revealing the photographs. Not all gone. One remained, hidden behind the fireplace. A faded picture of my grandfather, younger, smiling, with a group of figures standing behind him. Figures with elongated limbs, sharp claws, and eyes that burned with an unholy light. Their faces were obscured by darkness, but I could feel their gaze, cold and hungry, even across the years. The scratching stopped, the whispers faded, and I knew, with bone-chilling certainty, that Grandpa hadn't died of a heart attack. He'd been welcomed home. The single photograph felt heavier than a tombstone in my trembling hand. The smiling grandfather I remembered was a stranger, a pawn in a macabre tableau. Those things, those asterisk creatures asterisk behind him. They were impossibly tall, their limbs impossibly long and thin, ending in wickedly curved claws that gleamed even in the faded sepia. The darkness obscuring their faces felt less like a photographic flaw and more like a deliberate concealment, a veil drawn to protect a horror too terrible to behold. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, felt like a prelude to their return. I spent the next few days in a frantic search, poring over my grandfather's belongings, desperately trying to understand what he had stumbled upon, what he had unwittingly invited into his life. I found nothing but more unanswered questions. His research notes, typically meticulous, were scattered and incomprehensible, filled with cryptic symbols and references to obscure folklore. One recurring phrase, written in shaky hand, haunted me: the pact. They demanded a life for a life. The sheriff's unease, initially dismissed as rural paranoia, now resonated with a chilling clarity. His hesitant mention of strange occurrences around Widow's Peak, previously dismissed as local legends, now felt like a veiled warning. I tried contacting him again, but he was strangely unavailable, his phone going straight to voicemail. Driven by a desperate mix of fear and morbid fascination, I returned to the hidden passage. The metallic scent of old blood was even stronger now, almost suffocating. The air itself seemed to vibrate with a low, guttural hum. Armed with a stronger flashlight and a heavy iron poker, I descended into the darkness. The passage was narrow, barely wide enough for my shoulders, leading down a steep incline. The walls were slick with moisture, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and something else. Something that smelled faintly of ozone and decay. After what felt like an eternity, the passage opened into a large, cavernous chamber. The chamber was circular, the walls uneven and damp, lit only by a sickly green bioluminescence emanating from strange, fungal growths clinging to the stone. In the center, a rough-hewn altar stood bathed in this eerie light. And around the altar, they were there. The creatures from the photograph were real. More of them than I could count, their elongated limbs disturbingly fluid, their movements eerily silent. Their eyes, those burning, unholy lights, focused on me with a chilling intensity. The metallic scent intensified, now a cloying wave washing over me, the unmistakable tang of blood mixed with something ancient and alien. Their faces remained obscured, shrouded in shadows, but I felt their gaze, not just seeing it but sensing it, a cold, predatory hunger that promised an eternity of unimaginable torment. One of them, larger than the rest, moved towards me, its claws extended. Then, a raspy voice, the same one from the passage, spoke again, its tone a chilling blend of command and invitation. "He fulfilled his part. Now it's your turn."